Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every single morning to help you catch up with the things you may have missed out on whilst you were catching up with some all important sleep. Because let's face it, whilst you need sleep, I need sleep, the whole world needs sleep, the world of sport doesn't really sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it's a constant churn that can get a little tiring to keep in touch with. But worry not, that's why we're here and we're going to catch you up with some interesting things that have been happening in the world of sport whilst you were getting some rest. And let's start, of course, with yesterday's IPL 2024 game between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Rajasthan Royals. SRH ended up pulling off an absolute thriller of a victory of the last ball. But the finish of the match, let's say, has created a little bit of a storm on social media because, as it turns out, once Bhuvneshwar Kumar landed that low full toss, which then led to a DRS review, then no matter the decision of the DR of the third umpire in that particular case, well, the victory would have been SRH's anyway, even if he was given not out. That is because the rules of the game are such that when the umpire has given the batter out, then at that point the ball is very much dead. So any runs you take will not be counted. A lot of people were saying, and I remember here having this conversation, was that when he was given out, the batters should have run, and therefore they'd have completed a run, and potentially if it was not out, it would have been a super over. But that's not necessarily true due to the very simple fact that once he was given out, the ball is considered null and void, so he couldn't have actually taken that. And in fact, what makes it even worse is that when the ball hit Robin Pal's pad, it actually ended up flying all the way to the going all the way to the boundary. So technically, if it was not out, you'd think it would be given 4 leg byes, which would have technically given Rajasthan Royals the win. But that's not the way the rules are worded. In fact, once he's given out, the ball is dead, no runs count, which is why the 4 didn't count and they couldn't have run any runs either. That's something that has led to a lot of interesting conversation on social media. In fact, Akash Chopra said, that what if the DRS had concluded, he said this on social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, he said, what if the DRS concluded that the ball was missing the stumps and Powell wasn't out? This is one faux pas that DRS hasn't thought through. Once the umpires give it out, even if it's not out, the ball is dead. That meant SRH were winning the match even if that leg by went for a boundary. So that's what he said, and he said that this is something that maybe perhaps needs to be fixed as far as, let's say, a DRS and the future of reviews is concerned. In fact, Dale Steyn, the former mentor, incidentally a former bowling coach and mentor of Sunrisers Hyderabad, had a rather interesting thing to say in reply to a fan also on X. And he said that, we need to play basically in baseball style, saying that you consider the ball not dead until play has come to a stop. So essentially, run if you're the batting team and continue to field if you're the bowling team. Then we address the LBW or caught of no ball, etc. after that. If it's out, then it's out. And if runs are awarded if the LBW or court was not out, which in a way seems like a more fair decision and ensures that the game flows. Because now what tends to happen is that when one batter is just given out, that's it, the game comes to a standstill. But what if, again, in such a situation, if for instance RR could have run 1 run, then you would have been seeing a super over rather than, in fact, an SRH victory by 1 run. So it could have been a very different game, and it's perhaps one rule that needs a little bit of tweaking. At least that's what a lot of social media discourse. I've just mentioned 2 people, but a lot of fans in general were a little bit unhappy at this particular rule. Speaking of things that have been contentious in recent times, there's been a lot of talk, of course, about Virat Kohli in the T20 World Cup, as well as, of course, his approach, strike rate, all of that stuff. There has been plenty of talk about. But one thing that a lot of people have, of course, also been doing is try to ensure that, let's say, he's shielded from that outside noise. Because if you watch the press conference yesterday between Rohit Sharma and Ajit Kharkar, both of them did not raise any kind of problems really when it came to Rohit. In fact, publicly they were very open and said that no, there's been no conversations between us whatsoever as far as Virat Kohli's strike rate is concerned. There are no doubts from our end, no conversations whatsoever. IPL's a different ball game, international sport, different ball game, to which I say fair enough. However, there has also been talk among a lot of fans that Kohli would be a useful anchor for other more aggressive batters to bat around. But that is something that has been refuted by former SRH head coach Tom Moody. In fact, he said very clearly that there's no such thing as an anchor in T20 cricket. Virat Kohli has the strokes, he has the ability to play in those higher gears, so he needs to be dictating the terms. cannot be anchoring. There's no such thing as an anchor in T20 cricket. And that's an interesting way of looking at it, because especially now with batting lineups getting longer and playing conditions being way more favorable to the batters, you'd say, yeah, fair enough. You don't really need to be worrying about looking to anchor. You need to look to play at that fifth gear, sixth gear, seventh gear at all times. And if you get out, so be it. Personal landmarks don't matter. You need to be scoring quick runs for the team. A bit of sad news also now to continue on or leave this particular side behind the IPL T20 World Cup side. But a bit of sad news coming out of England that a 20-year-old spinner named Josh Baker, who's representing Worcestershire Cricket County Club, well, he's passed away due to an unknown reason. It wasn't confirmed, but it has been speculating that it was down to some form of a rare heart disease that he ended up passing away. And it's definitely tragic because, again, 20 years old, he just started playing cricket properly. One would think that he had the entirety of his career ahead of him and was actually playing county cricket the day before he passed away. So it's a very tragic thing, and thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to Josh Baker's family, friends, and well-wishers. A bit more cricket news before we then switch to sports beyond that. In the 5-match T20I series that the India women's cricket team as well as the Bangladesh women's cricket team are playing, the Harmanpreet Kaur-led side have now taken an unassailable 3-0 lead, which means they've sealed the series and it's only a matter of them winning it 4-1, 5 or 3-2, 5-0, either of those score lines. At this point in time, it's the series is done and dusted. They beat Bangladesh by 7 wickets in the last game, the third game that was played at the Sylhet International Cricket Stadium in May 2. Now, of course, India's spinners did a good job. They restricted Bangladesh to 117 for 8, and then Shafali Verma and Smriti Mandana put together a 91-run opening stand to help ensure that the chase was done and dusted and that there were no doubts whatsoever about where the match was going. Switching focus now and some football news for you. Chelsea fans rejoice, that's why I'm wearing the jersey, because you beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-0 at home, continuing on the recent good run of form that they've been as far as home games are concerned, but also dealing a major blow to Tottenham Hotspur's hopes of making it to the Champions League next season. Remember, Spurs right now are in 5th place, which may have been enough to qualify for the Champions League if the Premier League had gotten that extra 5th place spot due to their coefficient rankings, but they did. We now know that Italy and Germany have gotten those 2 extra spots, which means that if you're an English club, you need to be finishing in top 4. The bad news for Tottenham is that as things stand, they're 7 points adrift of that final top 4 position, with Aston Villa actually being in pole position to get that top 4 finish and ensure that they're back in the Champions League next season. In fact, it's in such a precarious situation really that there's a 7-point gap that all Villa really need to do is win any of their next 2 games, and then Spurs are out of the race, because then what happens is that with 2 games left, they'll not be able to make up that deficit. So Spurs could realistically win all their games and still not be in a position to qualify for the Champions League next season. They were dealt a hammer blow thanks in no small part to Chelsea's 2-0 victory, which came about courtesy of goals from Trevor Chalobah in the first half and Nicholas Jackson, surprise, surprise, in the second half. And speaking of Aston Villa, since we were talking about them, well, their hopes of potentially winning a European trophy, which they were in contention for this season given they were playing the Europa Conference League, taken a major hit. Why? Because in the first leg of their semi-final against Olympiacos, well, Olympiacos ended up thrashing them 4-2. Now, what makes things worse is that this was in fact, a first leg, and at this point it seems that Aston Villa are all but out of the tie. Olympiacos, they'd really be hoping that they can make it to the final, because the final is going to be played at Athens, which is basically home ground for them. And what's even worse is that for Aston Villa, who were playing their first European semi-final in over 42 years, well, for them it just basically meant that they've now pretty much given up any hopes of winning that trophy, but their focus is going to be firmly on ensuring that they can retain their top 4 spot, qualify for Europe Champions League, that is next season. A couple more news, from sports beyond the world of cricket, football. Tennis news for you first up. Aryna Sabalenka, who's the defending champion at the Madrid Open, she ended up getting a pretty good victory in her semi-final against Alina Rybakina. It was a comeback victory, and it ensures that Sabalenka has made it through to the final, but it wasn't an easy win by any stretch of the imagination, because she had lost the first set 6-1, but then had to rally from that, won the second set 7-5, thereafter won the third set 7-6, because she had to win the tiebreaker 7-5. So it was a very close affair, but good on Sabalenka for gritting it out And who awaits her in the final? Well, it is going to be Iga Swiatek, so that's definitely going to be a mouth-watering final to keep an eye on. Last bit of news from the world of Formula One, and after we got to know confirmation of the fact that Adrian Newey, the design genius who has pioneered Red Bull's recent dominant run as well as their run of 4 titles from the 2010 to 13 seasons, has walked away from the team. Speculation has been rife about what exactly his next move would be. A lot of moves are linking him to Aston Martin, some to Ferrari, and the driver who is currently bound for Ferrari in 2025 in Lewis Hamilton has now spoken out and said that it would be a privilege to be able to work with Adrian Newey at Ferrari if that opportunity so arose. Now, it's interesting that Hamilton mentions this because, quite frankly, the one thing in recent memory that Adrian Newey ticked off and said that, there are probably things that I regret in Formula One not being able to do. One is being able to work with Ferrari. The second, being able to work with Lewis Hamilton. If he does end up joining Ferrari for the 2026 season, that's 2 birds with 1 stone. So that's 2 tick boxes done with 1 single move. I certainly would be very interested to see how that works out, but you can tell me in the comments if you agree, disagree, think it's a good thing or not. Anyhow, that's it from this edition of the Morning Rapid Sports today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell, leave us a comment. Follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTech app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we did through yesterday as well. Stay tuned, plenty more coming your way on Sports Today. For now, from my side, it's goodbye.